Welcome to the IVM Podcast Network.
In 2015, Ambika and Hoshner quit their jobs and set out to rediscover the country through planes, trains, and rickety old buses. What started as a break has now grown into a life of travel and discovery. On this podcast, they take you through the highlights of their journey. This is the Rediscovery Podcast.
In this week's episode, we take you to the wettest place on earth, Cherrapunji, in the eastern state of Meghalaya.
So Cherrapunji is actually not the wettest place on earth anymore. It's actually a place called Mawsimram, which is right next to Cherrapunji, but it gets a lot of rain. So just to put it in perspective, Cherrapunji gets about 463 inches of rain on an average a year. Bombay gets about 95.
Oh, okay then.
And Bombay is pretty wet.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
Yeah, so Cherrapunji is pretty wet, and of course Cherrapunji is in the northeastern state of Meghalaya. And people have this perspective, this idea about the northeast that it's extremely difficult to get to and travel in, and you need, if you're going to northeast, you need a month off and stuff from work.
Which is not a bad idea also.
Not a bad idea, but not true technically, especially if you're going to Meghalaya, because unlike other places in the northeast, it's pretty well connected. You fly into Guwahati Airport, which is in Assam, but it's about 3 hours from Shillong, which is the capital of Meghalaya. And Cherrapunji is about a couple of hours more. So, in 4 to 5 hours, you're going to be in Cherrapunji, which is
It's the same as driving to Pune.
a little more, but yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. And the roads are really good.
The roads are excellent in Meghalaya, unlike in Arunachal or in Nagaland where we've been, where there are no roads.
In parts,
Here you have these wide, 3-lane, 4-lane highways, fully tarred, very nice roads, and makes it it's a pleasure to drive around there.
Yeah, I mean, these roads in Meghalaya we've seen are better than the roads in many other states across the country. So anyway, before we got to Meghalaya, we'd been in Arunachal, and it's incredibly beautiful over there, and it's all incredibly beautiful. And the scenery, the kind of vegetation they have, the trees, they're quite different from what you've seen otherwise. So it's a bit of an eye-opener in that sense. And then we got to Meghalaya, and then, we got out of the bad roads into the good roads, as Hoshner said. And we came all the way down to Cherrapunji. I mean, we skipped Shillong on that trip.
And the landscape is kind of different in Meghalaya as compared to Arunachal. Arunachal is part of the Himalayas. You have the typical, high, craggy mountains you associate that kind of a region with. Meghalaya has a lot of hills, but they're sort of flat hills. When you get to the top of the hill, it's a huge plateau. So you will see this nice flat plateau on the top of the hill, and you'll go down and go up the next hill, and it's again a plateau. So it's a very different sort of topography from any of the other hill states that we've seen.
So we got to Cherrapunji, and one of the ideas that we had was to go and see the living root bridges, which are incredible feats of engineering. I mean, and it's a great amalgamation of how man and nature have sort of worked together, but in a very eco-friendly manner.
So as we know, Cherrapunji gets a lot of rainfall, and obviously in the monsoon months, there are a lot of rivers, streams down in the valleys, which become impossible to cross. Now, all the villages in Meghalaya and definitely in Cherrapunji are mostly in the valleys. They're not on the top of the hills in most cases. And crossing across streams, going from hill to hill is part of daily life for these villagers. And it's incredibly important for them to be able to do this. And in the monsoon, it had become almost impossible because of, the torrential rainfall, and those streams become, gushing rivers in those months. So they devised a way to get around this, and it was building bridges. But now these bridges were not, cement and steel bridges. This is Meghalaya. So they built what they call root bridges, living root bridges. So these root bridges are basically bridges made out of the roots of the rubber trees, which are these, huge, massive old trees with very long and strong roots. And it's not that, they cut the roots and they sort of made them into twine, but they actually made the roots, the living roots, come across the river by, sort of twining them around bamboo and pieces of wood and sort of coaxing it across the river. And it's not something that happens overnight, right? You're taking a route from one side of the river bank to the other side, and it takes 20 to 25 years to build a bridge in this manner.
Yeah, but these bridges, once they are ready, they are so sturdy. I mean, you can drive like a car over them. If they were wide enough, you can have like 100 men standing on that bridge. It's that sturdy and thick. So over 20-25 years, and I mean over time, once the bridge is ready as well, the roots are continuously growing.
Yeah.
So they're getting thicker and thicker, and then more roots are coming out. So the whole bridge, which is why it's called a living root bridge, because
it's alive.
The whole bridge is technically alive. And as they said, the roots that are connected to the opposite end are usually connected to another tree, whose roots are then brought to the first side. So you have these two trees, roots are sort of intertwining with each other. So it's quite a sight.
Yeah, and these root bridges are then pretty much the lifeline of the people living in those regions around. Because without them, they'd be cut off, literally cut off from the other side.
Much easier to now get across these torrential rivers that they have. I mean, the root bridges are all over this part of Meghalaya. There's some further east of Cherrapunji. Some are easier to get to, but we wanted to go see the ones in Sohra.
We wanted to see the ones that are most difficult to get to.
But that was also the coolest one, at least we think so, is because it's a double-decker bridge. And it's the only double-decker bridge over there that you can go see.
Two root bridges built from the same tree.
One on top of the other. Yeah, so you can walk on top and then climb down and then walk across the other. Yeah, it's literally a double-decker bridge. So we said, okay, we must go there. And because it's incredibly hard to access, it's not as touristy as some of the other bridges, which are a little bit easier. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but, we were like, must go to the hardest point possible and see the bridge. So this double-decker bridge is located deep in the valley. It's in a village called Nongriat. But you start climbing down from a little village called Tirna. And all of this information is on our blog. We have a guide to going and seeing the living root bridge and all the other bridges. So you can check that out.
The fun part is the climb down is 3,000 steps down.
More than 3,000.
More than 3,000 steps down. And if you want to do it in a day, it means you're going down 3,000 steps and then you're going right back up 3,000 steps.
Because life otherwise is all on top in Sohra. So you have to come back up unless you want to just stay down there forever, which, it's beautiful
fine.
down there.
It's very nice.
It's not such a bad idea. So
we set out, on this trek to the living root bridges. And of course, we had a guide with us. And as it always is the case, the guides are locals from these regions. And for them, all these things that seem incredibly hard to us is all in a day's work.
Yeah, I mean, he's like, I do this every other day. And
I do it sometimes twice a day.
And we were thinking, okay, if he does it every other day and people are going up and down so often, then it can't be that difficult also.
Yeah, until we started. And so the first section of it, about 2,000 steps or so, is concrete. And it's really steep.
And it's at one point you're looking down and it's just like flat down. It's not a slope down. So that's a little bit like unnerving. But you don't look down. You just walk. And you walk slowly and you walk carefully. And climbing down 2,000 steps is not that easy. I mean, you think you're climbing down, gravity's on your side and everything. Big steps, it's a bit difficult. And it's a little bit tough on the knee as well. But we got down there.
Yeah, and it's 2,000 odd steps that you climb in the first section. You're actually going down about 800 to 1,000 meters.
Yeah, so it's a pretty quick descent in that sense. So you get down there, and while we're walking down, these people who live down in the village in Nongriat, they are coming up. There's school kids. And so we started early in the morning because we were going to do this in a day. And so there's school kids are coming up, with their bags. And they're like, we're going to school. And then there's men coming up with their stuff and the old ladies with their walking sticks. And we are already like feeling it.
Yeah, we're feeling it. The huffing and the puffing has started.
And these people are doing this every day. And we're like, oh, damn it, we must now, be a little bit stronger and braver and keep going. So
I had no such thought.
At least I was like, can't have these people, these older people putting us to shame.
There were older people putting us to shame. There were younger people putting us to shame. There were people our own age putting us to shame.
Yeah, we were supposed to be young and healthy. But anyway, we ate a lot before we came here.
Yeah,
so that's our excuse. So you get down the first section, which is these 2,000 steps, and there's the first bridge that you can see. Now, this is not a double-decker bridge. It's a single bridge, but it's the longest bridge.
Yeah, in that part.
So the guide took us to go and see that bridge, and that's the first time we'd seen these living bridges, and it's so cool, and the sight of it is just like, it's mind-boggling. It's like, how is this bridge just made of roots and branches and parts of this tree?
Yeah.
And you can walk across it just fine. I mean,
it's pretty narrow.
It's
pretty narrow, but
weird.
it's pretty long. It's
long,
It
yeah.
was like, 50 to 70 meters across, if I remember correctly. And it was all made with the roots
Yeah,
of the tree. There was a tree at one end, and there was roots, and it was stretched across the river.
And there was a tree at the other end, and then there's this water below. And when we were there, it was not raining. It was way past the monsoon, so the river was not that thick, so you could climb down into the river and stuff. But you can imagine, had the river been in Spain, then it would have been quite difficult to get across. So we saw the first bridge, and then we hung out there, rested for a while, and once we seen it, it was like, okay, yes, now we must go on to see the next one. It was kind of like reinforced our
we felt
energy.
fully enthusiastic again. So
and
we
the guide
set
also
off,
got us excited.
So we set off to the main double-decker route bridge, and from there on, the trek was actually nicer because we are past the cement steps, and we are on normal rock cut steps going down, and the scenery sort of opened up a little. And our guide was pretty good. He showed us some interesting things. He showed us like a spitting scorpion apparently. He showed us some pretty cool frogs, which the kind we'd not seen before. And there were these tomato-like fruits on the trees, which we said, oh, can we taste? And he's like, no, they're poisonous.
Yeah, so don't eat like random fruit on the trees.
Yeah, don't. I think it took us maybe 45 minutes more, and then we were at the main double-decker living root bridge.
Yeah, but see, you're going from the long bridge to the double-decker, and it's mostly flat. It's like a little bit up and down, few steps up, few steps down. And that seems fine because you've done 2,000 steps down, and it's just like, oh, this is easy peasy. But the last section is about 150 steps up. Which
that's hard, yeah.
Is not. If you think about it, 100 steps, but it's not difficult by itself. But having done all of that already, it was like, oh no, just one more step.
And by that time, it was pretty hot. Now Cherrapunji, you think, oh, it's raining all the time. It's monsoon the whole year round. Fact of the matter is, it rains a lot in the 3 months of monsoon, and after that the rain sort of peters out for the rest of the year. So it was scorchingly hot at that time.
It was humid.
It was also humid. No,
we were way down in the valley, so it wasn't like direct sun.
It was still
and humid. Yeah.
And we had it by then with the walking and just soaking through with sweat. And then we arrive at this bridge, and the scene there was pretty amazing, because there's this huge tree, this old rubber tree, and obviously there's this root bridge across, and it's the root bridge.
2 root bridges across.
There's 2 root bridges across, and they're sort of over a pool, and they're shading the entire pool, and there are these little kids fishing in this pool, and the pool is fed by this little waterfall, and the waterfall is then forming one more pool, and it's this very...
It's like perfect.
Yeah, this fairy tale magical sort of scene. I think it took me 5 minutes to take my t-shirt off and jump into the pool.
5 minutes, I don't think it took. It took more like 5 seconds.
We
saw the bridge and we were like, yeah, okay, bridge, water, jump in the water, and that's what happened.
And it was awesome.
Then I think the sight of the bridge really hit us, because it's like, whoa. And they're tall. The rubber trees are really tall, and so the bridges are also at quite a height. And we're in the pool, so you can see just how amazing these are, and how... back then the tribals living in that, the villagers living in that area must have figured out how to create these bridges, So,
yeah.
hats off to them.
And what patience to wait 25 years for a bridge. I remember next to the single route bridge, the long one, they were building another one across a different section of the river, and you could see how they do it, because those roots were sort of suspended over the river in midair, sort of parallel to the ground. And you could imagine that, that must have taken 5 years, 10 years, and now it's going to go on for another 5-10 years.
5-10 years, yeah.
And they're going to build another bridge across the river.
So, so we're in the water, and the setting is it's just idyllic. I think that's the correct word for it. And we met a couple of friends who were staying down by the double-decker bridge. And so that's the village of Nongriat, which is down there. And there's a homestay there run by Byron, who's from the area. And the homestay, it's basic. There's just like rooms, there's a bed, there's bathrooms. But you don't need anything
the
other
scene
than that.
sort of makes up for it.
So if you want to go down and stay for a few nights, which we highly recommend. I mean, we actually didn't know that Byron had a place down there. So for the next time, we're definitely going to stay there, because it's nice to do that over a couple of days, because you can then explore the region. There's other small waterfalls.
Yeah, there's a lot of trekking paths around, and it's very pretty down there. And it's a place where you can easily spend a couple of days like chilling and doing nothing. And it's really not fun to do that walk up again in one day.
Yeah, we were lying in the pool, then we had eaten something, and then we were just lying about, and the guide is like, okay, now it's time to go up. Are you ready? And we're like, 5 more minutes, because firstly, we're having such a great time, and then the thought of climbing those 3,000 odd steps back up was daunting. But it was time to go up, and ideally, if you're doing it by yourself, you should go up before it gets really dark, and it starts getting dark
pretty early.
So Cherrapunji also is known for its waterfalls, other than being famous for the Living Root Bridge and the double-decker bridge.
There's a bunch of waterfalls all around the state, and Cherrapunji itself has 4 or 5 really famous ones.
Yeah, so there's the Seven Sisters Fall, which we went and saw.
The Seven Sisters is only the Seven Sisters during the monsoon.
I think there was one sister was like
after the monsoon, there's only one sister, 1.5 sister left.
But then, if you want to see the waterfalls in their finest, in their most lush self, then go during the monsoon or just after.
Yeah.
By the time we were there, it was the end of September, so that's obviously not a good time to go if you are looking to see these like massive waterfalls.
Yeah, the rain had completely petered out by then, obviously.
And these are all seasonal rain-fed waterfalls.
Rain-fed waterfalls,
so they don't last all year round. But some of the famous ones are the Mouse Mai Falls near the Mouse Mai Caves. And the Mouse Mai Caves are really cool because they've got all these stalactites in them.
They're fairly well-known and touristy caves, but they're still pretty incredible. Definitely you must check it out when you go to Cherrapunji. They're very cool.
Yeah, you
very
do
weird
all these
rock formations.
Yeah. And you do all these calisthenics to go through the cave. You have to go in from one end and come out the other, and sometimes
and everyone
you're crawling.
goes down this one path, but there are other side paths, so you should check out the side paths and go and explore in places where people don't. You can.
Yeah, you can.
There are enough of those small little nooks and crannies. Don't be scared. Go.
Take your torch, because only the main path is lit. And so caving is like a big thing in that region, and then obviously going to see all the waterfalls. Then there's the Dainthlane Fall, which
those are really cool.
Yeah, which had a really weird landscape. So again, you're at the top of the mountain, and the mountain's a plateau right now, and so the falls are actually below you. So that's kind of different from going to see the falls that are in front of you or above you. The falls are below you. So you see where the river comes off the cliff really and becomes a waterfall. And because there was hardly any water, you could see all the landscape that the
riverbed.
Yeah, the riverbed. And it was like what you would imagine the moon or Mars to be like.
Yeah, it was full of craters and sort of craggy little, rock outlets here and there. It really looked like Mars because it was that deep red sort of rock and completely weird formations with all these craters, and people there were little pools in the craters, formed by the water, and there were people chilling in the pools, and they were having picnics. And there were sections where the water was so low that you could sit on the rocks above the water and just watch the river go by.
Yeah, there were people playing cards.
Yeah.
So that's definitely lots of stuff to do in Cherrapunji. There's activities and trekking.
There's canyoning, which is something new. At least that was new for us. So you can, and like Hoshna said in the beginning, it's not difficult to get to Cherrapunji. Bombay to Guwahati flight, then about a 4-5 hour drive. You could easily spend a 3-4 day and a couple of nice
holiday.
places to stay in Cherrapunji. We stayed at the Cherrapunji Holiday Resort. It's a little family-run place. The reason we stayed there is that it's very close to the starting point for the Root Bridges trek. So it's a good place to stay for that. There are also places in the main town of Sohra. Sohra is the name that Cherrapunji is known by to the locals. And they all have lovely locations. There's this big place, hotel called Polo Orchid, which is right next to the Seven Sisters Fall. There's Cherrapunji Holiday Resort down there, and there are lots of homestays in between where you can stay anywhere.
And I think I would recommend the Cherrapunji because it's run by a local Khasi woman, and her husband, and they are really very knowledgeable.
Yeah, the local Khasi woman is married to a Tamilian gentleman.
Yeah, Tamilian gentleman. And he's a guy, I mean, they both have sort of made that region a little bit famous.
Yeah, I
with the
think
bridges.
they've sort of put Cherrapunji and the bridges on the map from a touristic perspective.
And they know
Their
everything.
stuff, yeah.
So, I mean, even if you don't stay there, definitely just go and meet them. So, yeah. So, if you want to read more about Cherrapunji or see our guide on going to the Living Root Bridges, you can check out our website, which is www.rediscoveryproject.com.
Yeah, we also have some photos of the bridges and all on Instagram and on Facebook. So, do follow us there.
And we're also on Twitter. So, thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Happy travels.
In the next episode, we take you to the interiors of Maharashtra to check out the 50,000-year-old crater, the only one of its kind in the world.
The Rediscovery Podcast is an Indus Vox Media production. If you like this podcast, you can also listen to the Fan Garage Sports Podcast. New episodes covering cricket, Indian football, and fantasy cricket are uploaded every day.